on the discussions as will be presented by the rapporteurs from the various groups. But let me quickly appreciate our elder statesmen our big daddies in this sector that have been here with us since the opening ceremony and are still here with us in the unshakable belief that everything that starts should be given the opportunity to end. There is no abandonment midway, because every good thing must be logically concluded. I know that as a teacher, I've encountered many circumstances to the extent that I know that even where mistakes are made, there is opportunity for correction. That's why you discover that the white man who manufactured or invented pencil, in those days when we were in primary school, every good pencil had an eraser attached to it. So that when you make a mistake, you turn the eraser section and obliterate. If there is anything we have not done well here, we need to forgive ourselves so that the education sector must move forward and God will be with us. Amen. Put your hands together and say amen to that. Yes. We will have as the chairman of this session our daddy, Professor Kabiru Ishaku. Put your hands together and welcome Daddy, who will be chairman of this session. Daddy, you're welcome, sir. Yes, sir. We also have Daddy here, Professor M.I. Junaid. Put your hands together and welcome Daddy. Sir, you're welcome, sir. I remember yesterday you asked the discussant to take note of the fact that you were late. Today, I want to take note of the fact that you are very early, sir. You are welcome, sir. Yes, sir. You know, these things help us. As teachers, even in the classroom, there are certain things that you are taught by your students. Even how to manage class. I had some experience from my student teacher. Ordinarily, I wouldn't have known how to manage that situation. But while supervising the student teacher's teaching practice, I discovered that the topic of the day was reptiles. And the particular reptile that was discussed was chameleon. But the student teacher did not know how to pronounce chameleon. She pronounced it as chameleon. So I allowed her to progress with the lesson. Then she got to a point where she said, one quality of this creature is that it changes its color at will. That if it meets a human being wearing white, it will change its color to white. If you are wearing black, it will change color to black. I allowed her to finish. Then I signaled her and said, please, I didn't want the students to know. I said, please, there is an error. That animal is not called chameleon, it is called chameleon. He said, thank you, sir, and returned to the lesson. He said, I told you earlier that this animal has many qualities. One of the qualities is that it changes its color at will. The second quality is that it changes its name at will. That is why when this lesson started, it was called chameleon, but now it is called chameleon. Hello. Let me also recognize our daddy who is still here with us very actively, Professor Shetima Abdul Kadir. Put your hands together and welcome Daddy to this ceremony. Yes, sir. And also on the high table, our daddy, the retired DPM from NCCE, who was chairman of the second session on the day of opening. So we are happy you are still here with us. Malam Saliu Karao. Put your hands together for Daddy. We also recognize and invite to the high table the chairman of Committee of Provost in Nigeria, Professor Pongri. Daddy, you're welcome. Join them on the high table. I'm sorry, sir, as small as you see me, I'm the master of this ceremony. Even the former executive secretaries have to obey me. So just obey me. Today is my day, sir. Yes, sir. I'm the master of this ceremony. Yes. No, I'm the master of this ceremony. and I must claim what belongs to me. No, so one of my uncles used to, after drinking sufficient palm wine, when you joke with him, will tell you, my friend, keep quiet. As you see me as small, so I get 11 child. Hello. Let me humbly invite the President of COEASU, Mr. President. That's my goal of that. Welcome, sir. We also recognize all former presidents that are here with us. I'm seeing my Oga, Samakindele there. You're welcome, sir. The one and only Remy Makinde, comrade, is there. Oh, Baba, sorry. Sir, this your green confused me because I don't. Baba, I'm very sorry, sir. Yes, sir. Sorry, I know. Then, Maoga, President Awa, you're welcome, sir. And my very special brother, Comrade Asaga, you're welcome, sir. Every other person that is here is welcome. Committee of Bossers, Committee of Registrars, and distinguished non-members that are here. You are all welcome. AGS, I'm giving you one platform.
Let us pray. Father, I want to sincerely appreciate you for the gift of life and the gift of this beautiful day. We appreciate you for the program so far. For today, we commit everything that we are going to do here into your hands. We pray that you direct us and give us the enablement to implement all the decisions that will be taken here. This and several other intentions we ask in Jesus' name.
Thank you for that prayer. The chairman of Conference of Registrars is also here with us and humbly invited to the high table. God bless you, sir. We recognize the presence of our brothers from other sister unions. Ahianasu is here represented, as well as Sukon. You are welcome. God bless you. We recognize provosts that are here with us, provosts of colleges of education that are here with us. The provost of Taisularin COE is here with us. Dr. Adesu, please. Wherever you are, God bless you. You are welcome. Then, we are not doing politics, but we must give the women their 35%. Women in colleges of education, are you here? Yes, you are recognized. God bless you. God bless you. Oh, is it we? Some people call it we say. Okay, God bless you. God bless you. God bless you. Mr. Chairman, sir, you may welcome us. We wish to welcome us in your home. Yes. To declare the thing open so that the rapporteurs can come. Yes, sir. I'm bringing it, sir.
Thank you very much for drafting me early this morning to be the chairman of this occasion. I don't know what criteria you have used, but one of my own part of characteristics is that I waste no time doing anything. Anything I do, I don't waste time. Therefore, if you are sitting near your neighbor and there is no seat between you, please separate yourself. When you go out of Abuja, when I'm not around, put yourself together. Because I don't want the task force to come and catch us here any moment. So, what I mean is social distance. Thank you very much, Alan. Like I said, I've been drafted to do this work, and I was told that the rapporteurs of the various groups will come up and give us their reports one by one. So if you are a rapporteur, even before you call your name, please come with your report here so that I will arrange you as you at present. Are you rapporteurs? This is the secretaries, you know? That's the secretaries. Where are you? MC, where are the secretaries? I'm one of them. But you are doing something, so you are not here. Go and do what you are. Give me the list now before I ask you to do something. Any other secretary around? All right. In the absence of any other secretary, I will appoint myself as the secretary. All right. Okay. What is guest house in Academy of Education, I know so everything is just everything. Singing negotiating with the owner, so they are paying far less. If you come as an individual, you can get chance of maybe the show. That happened plus breakfast. I can cover the nation.
Present the committee of provost on the high table. In addition to yes, God bless you. Thank you, sir.
So we are ready to do that. But I'm not number one. Where is number one? Man is two, so I'm number two. Where is number one? So he's not around. So that is where we call him. So we Dr. Shehu. Rapporteur for funding, is he around? He was around. We were doing a lot of funding yesterday. If he is not around, are you ready to come to the high table, to the back of the high table, so that I know I count you are around? Yes, sir. All right, Comrade Noah Alami, is he around? Noah Alami, he's not around. Comrade Olusegun Lana, is he around for governance? He was around yesterday, but he's not around now. Okay. Comrade M.I. Japa? Yes, sir. Is he around? Yes, come here, sir. Come here. So that you don't run away again. So I have Lana and Japa and Akpanke. Akpanke or Akpanke? Akpanke. Do you change also? Okay. So you remain Akpanke. Akpanke. Right. I'm still looking for Dr. Shehu. He's on his way. All right. Gentlemen and ladies, especially those who attended the various subcommittees, listen. What they are going to present is supposed to be the consensus of what you people have agreed at the various subcommittees, and they are bringing it us here so that we all agree as part of our own resolution on community. When you, but please, not everything that you think you are recommending should be in the final communique. You put plenty, they will put it aside. Make sure you put the key things that will bring in the others. That is the most important thing, especially if you are approaching government. If you are approaching government with your demands, please, I advise you, get the key ones and arrange them according to priority, so that if one gets in, others it can be able to pull in others by way of attraction. So I'm going to call Comrade Anyishi Apanke, who is the rapporteur for curriculum group, to present their resolutions and their recommendations. Where are you? Yes. I thought you are supposed to be a good chair for me because I understand. You like standing? Okay. You have 10 minutes. Maximum of 10 minutes, please. So,
Chairman and members of the High Table, all other established protocols recognized. I hereby present Rapporteurs' report on Summit Group 1 that discussed the topic Curriculum and Quality Assurance. Preamble. The discussion group on Curriculum and Quality Assurance met at the conference hall of Top Rank Hotel Annex, Abuja, on Wednesday, 24th February 2021. The paper presented on Tuesday, 23rd, on the above topic was exhaustively and fruitfully discussed vis-à-vis the theme of the summit. The 6 segments of the paper, which include overview of concepts, overview of mission of NCC/COEs, curriculum of COEs, quality assurance in COEs, challenges of implementation of curriculum in COEs, and the way forward, were unanimously applauded as adequate insights into the theme of the summit and the roadmap for the reposition of the COE system in Nigeria from the milieu of curriculum and quality assurance. General observations. The following observations and concerns were raised. Curriculum content. The group noted that the content and design of the current curriculum of COEs is overbloated, to the extent that in some cases students are plagued with course load of more than 20 courses due to the pluralization of courses and that could have been conveniently merged to avoid duplication of such courses as micro-teaching and methodology in various departments, despite their being already domiciled in the Department of Curriculum. Quality assurance. The group identified the quality level in curriculum implementation in COEs as low and near zero, conditioned but not restricted to the following. 1. The undefined process of staff recruitment, which is antithetical and non-compliant with the tenets of quality assurance. This phenomenon was traced to the undue pressure on chief executives of COEs by extraneous interests, especially politicians, for recruitment and placement of their lackeys in the COE system on the one hand, and the lack of courage and official assertion to resist such external pressure by the chief executives of COEs on the other hand. 2. The inability of some college managements to properly position and mobilize internal quality assurance organs like Servicom and the Quality Assurance Directorate to function effectively. Mission of NCC and COEs. The group raised concerns that whereas the NCC is the statutory regulatory agency of all colleges of education in the country, there is glaring disparity and lack of harmony in policy implementation in some colleges, especially the policy on promotion standards. Of glaring note was the fact that whereas the national policy on promotion of COE lecturers endorses the possession of a master's degree as qualification for promotion to the apex rank of chief lecturer, some state governments that are proprietors of state COEs have injected an incongruent clause into the policy, which insists that no one without a PhD should be promoted to the apex rank. The group equally noted and overwhelmingly decried the fact that contrary to the provision of the Establishment Act, the NCC has been divorced from her statutory responsibility of disbursing funds to COEs, noting that the new arrangement by other funding agencies has been wrought with disparity and unfairness in the allocation of funds to various colleges. Curriculum in COEs. The group noted with utmost dismay that the 2020 reviewed minimum standard had not been made available to COEs, fearing that the concerns raised at the 2018 Curriculum Review Conference in Albanikoku FC Owerri, which may wipe the minimum standard, may not have been considered and included in the review document. It also noted with great concern that in the process of curriculum review, not all those often involved in the review are specialists or experts in the various subject areas. Challenges of curriculum implementation in the COEs. The group recognized as apt the following challenges identified by the discussant as drawbacks to effective curriculum implementation in COEs. 1. Its relevance to learners, teachers, and the society. 2. Infrastructure deficit. 3. Quality of entrance into the COE. 4. Distraction of trainers and implementers. 5. commitment of the implementers. 6, inadequate monitoring and evaluation. And 7, the need to train for the 21st century. Resolutions. In order to reverse the above maladies and incongruities identified as impeding effective curriculum implementation and quality assurance in the COE system, to align with the summit theme of repositioning the colleges of education subsector for improved efficiency and effectiveness, the group therefore proffered the following gateway. 1. A state of emergency should be declared in the education subsector to create the amplitude for the consideration and clearing of all declivities in the system to enshrine a positive turnaround for optimal operation and better results. 2. The current curriculum of COEs should be reviewed to streamline courses with a possible measure of similar courses to avoid duplication and reduce the current cost load on students. 3. The curriculum should be regularly reviewed to create amplitude for both theoretical and practical aspects of learning experiences to be acquired to heighten the curriculum's relevance to learners, teachers, and the society. 4. The possibility of specialization by students in one subject area to enhance their post-NCE career advancement should be explored and entrenched in the curriculum. 5. The curriculum review process should be carried out by only specialists in various subject areas, especially practicing teachers of such subjects who are conversant with their training realities. 6. The NCCE should enforce the delineation and adoption of proper nomenclature and status for the various schools in the College of Education system by all colleges. 7. The curriculum should be embraced strictly as an elastic embodiment of minimum standard with the latitude and propensity for expansion by each practitioners and implementers to incorporate current trends that are relevant to the subject matter in concern with contemporary global societal demands of education, so that the products of COEs could retain industrial relevance in the employment spectrum. 8. A feedback mechanism should be entrenched by NCCE for regular observations that could obviate gray areas in the curriculum of COEs. 9. Student-teacher ratio in the country should be given worthwhile attention in consonance with international best practices to forestall overcrowding of lecture halls. 10. College management should vehemently resist any pressure that could derail them from the attainment of quality assurance in the system by ensuring that due process remains their guiding spirit in all issues of administration, including staff recruitment and placement. All quality assurance organs in COEs should also be properly constituted in all colleges and enabled to function effectively. 11. In strict conformity with the vision and mission of the NCCE and COEs as encapsulated in their establishment acts, the NCCE should ensure harmonious policy implementation in all government-owned colleges of education, irrespective of their proprietorship. Any proprietor or college management that flouts the establishment policy should be sanctioned with stringent measures, such as denial of accreditation of the programs of such colleges. 12. The NCC's statutory responsibility of disbursement of funds to COEs should be reinstated, but such disbursement should be devoid of any disparity. 13. Infrastructure deficits should be promptly and regularly addressed by the funding and regulatory agencies of COEs. 14. The national admission policy should be reviewed to provide for teacher education institutions to be considered as first charge, so that entrance into tertiary teacher education institutions could be the best brains in the tertiary education qualifying examinations, to replace the current practice whereby COEs are only assigned the lowest performers in the qualifying examination. 15. Teacher education should be made attractive through free education for teacher trainees, who should also be given automatic employment with attractive conditions of service on graduation. 16. In collaboration with COEASU, college management and NCCE should carry out effective monitoring and evaluation of curriculum implementation in COEs to guarantee quality assurance in the system. Conclusion. The group is grateful for the opportunity of the entire summit and the rare privilege of being recognized to discuss such a sensitive topic, which is considered critical to the positioning of the College of Education subsector for improved efficiency and effectiveness. Thank you, and God bless us all.
I don't know the method you want us to adopt. Shall we all listen to them first, and then we take the observations? Oh, I think that's the best one. Better. For any other one, I'm as democratic as you can. Even though I'm from Kano, and I'm not Charles, my senior brother. Right? Thank you very much. So the best is to do the presentation. Yes, Lana. Lana is on governance. Before he speaks, please note, and I have taken note, that the curriculum group wired into other areas that are not there, but especially funding. So check their recommendation as they do. If the funding people haven't said what they say and you think it's relevant, we improve. But you are encroaching. Are you Fulani? Entering the forest of funding.
The chairman, our distinguished fathers on the high table, fellow summit participants. Good morning to you from Group 3. I stand on behalf of the group that discussed thematic issue 3, governance of the College of Education system. Our chairman is Alhaji Sadio Korau, and our lead discussant is Professor Abdulkadir Shetima Seidu. To save time, I won't read out the names of the panelists, moderators, and the rapporteur. The theme, following the presentation of the lead discussant, the group discussed the theme of governance in colleges of education in Nigeria. Areas of deliberation included: 1. Emerging issues on the role of the National Commission for Colleges of Education, NCCE, its relation to the COE and other regulatory agencies and MDAs. 2. Appointment and responsibilities of the Governing Council, the Provost and other principal officers. And 3. Promotion of staff welfare and industrial harmony within the system. The recommendations or submissions of the group on each of the subtopical issues are as follows. Under emerging issues on the role of NCC, we submit and recommend as follows. The NCC is saddled with the responsibility of ensuring that proprietors of COEs, including state and private, implement the extant scheme of service, conditions of service, and minimum standards for programs. The NCCE has not lived to par on this statutory role, especially in state COEs, where governance is largely characterized by brazen impunity, abuse of power, administrative recklessness, and miscarriage of statutes and regulations. The group further observed and adjudged as aberration the trend that MDAs bypass the Commission to relate directly with COEs. It was also noted that the Commission is excluded in various interministerial committees pertaining to the COE subsector. After extensive deliberation on these and other relevant issues, the group specifically recommends that 1. All stakeholders, most especially the NCCE, should pursue quick passage of the NCCE Establishment Amendment Act, as the frameworks for governance of COE anticipated in the Act will resolve most of the challenges confronting the system. 2. The system, colleges of education, is only practiced in Nigeria, while other countries practice universities and polytechnics. The Nigerian government should make colleges of education known across other countries by modifying the certificate to universal standard and we recommend a new title in place of NCE to be named National Diploma in Education. 3. Award of license by NCCE to polytechnics and mushroom colleges to run NCE programs should be aborted immediately. 4. All circulars of government to COEs from the Federal Ministry of Education and other MDAs should be streamlined through the Commission, while the Commission should maintain cordial relationship with the colleges. Next, NCCE should revert to its powers in the Act establishing it as the agency solely responsible for regulating, supervising, recommending and approving all programs in colleges of education in Nigeria. Next, release of funds to the COEs in hierarchical order should be done by the Ministry of Finance through the NCCE as it was before. The Commission should rediscover its pride of place, purge herself of corrupt tendencies, and be assertive in enforcing regulations and approved standards accordingly. The Executive Secretary of NCCE should be appointed from among former or present provosts and or those who had passed through the COE system, who are familiar with the terrain and appreciate the peculiarities of the system. NCCE should link accreditation to sacrosanct implementation of approved scheme and conditions of service and compliance with Eastern guidelines in state COEs in order to holistically address the problem of idiosyncratic governance in those colleges. The curriculum should be made vibrant and relevant to the present Nigerian situation. Special bailout funds should be made available to state COEs to bridge their lamentable infrastructural gap. NCCE should strengthen its monitoring role in the administration of the COE system. And lastly, under that, NCCE should ensure that the consolidated salary for registrars, bursars, and college librarians are backed up with circulars from the National Salaries and Wages Commission for implementation. And then on the governing councils. Whereas the role of governing councils in the governance of COEs borders on policy matters and excludes day-to-day running of the colleges, there are growing cases of interference in daily administration by governing councils, particularly in several state COEs. Government should appoint experienced staff and all retirees from COEs as council members, since they are familiar with the system, to stop this tide. Governing councils of all federal, state, and private COEs should be reconstituted without further delay. NCCE representatives in the governing councils should live up to expectation by ensuring that all extant rules are respected. Governing councils should collaborate with NCCE by submitting a good proposal to solicit support and grants from foreign and local bodies. And lastly, under governing councils, we have that governing council chairman should have teacher training. Next is on appointment of provosts. The extant guideline that stipulates that provosts of colleges of education should be appointed from among chief lecturers, not equivalent, should be enforced in all federal, state, and private colleges of education. NCCE should ensure that all provosts treat staff and unions as partners in progress in the management of the COE system. And our last subdivision is on staff welfare and industrial harmony. The following are our recommendations. Principal officers, namely registrar, bursar, and librarian, are placed on consolidated salary only on paper without financial backing, and they receive less salary than their deputies, with all attendant demoralizing effect. This anomaly must be corrected. Proprietors of federal, state, and private colleges of education should ensure adequate funding of the institutions. Uniform and universal nomenclature should be applied among the 3 tiers of tertiary institutions in Nigeria and should be adhered to. Provision for sabbatical leave should be treated effectively by utilizing the envelope given to all colleges exhaustively. Collective bargaining processes between the union and government should include top-ranking officials formally delegated to represent state governments with a view to making the outcomes of such bargaining processes, including salary scale, implementable without another round of agitation to state COEs. And lastly, COEASU chapters should be forthcoming in engaging relevant authorities in correcting anomalies within the COEs. The chairman, distinguished guests, and fellow summit participants, greetings to you from Group 3. Thanks for listening.
Thank you very much, the group on governance. From many of their recommendations, it shows that you cannot govern without funding. So he also talked about funding. So funding is very, very, it seems, cutting cross issue as far as so you pick and move everything under funding, any funding, governance, yeah?
I'm with you, sir. Members of the high table, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, permit me to recognize and invite to the high table the lead discussant on the topic curriculum and quality assurance, our former ES, Professor Monday Joshua. Prof, you are welcome, sir. Let's welcome you. Yes. Oh, he stepped out. Okay. He will soon be here. Let me also welcome to the high table Professor Haruna Rashid. Haruna Rashid, please. The Provost of FCE, Kontagora. You're welcome, sir. Move over to the high table. I know that you always go everywhere with your register, but for the first time, you will not go with you to the high table. Yes, okay. But we recognize the registrar of FCE, Kontagora, who is also here with his provost. You are welcome, sir. God bless you, sir. Mr. Chairman, sir.
All right, thank you very much for that recognition. The provost of Kontagora is here with his registrar, but I know that the provost cannot function without the buzzer. Where is the buzzer? Where is your buzzer? Do you function with that buzzer? I will go to you. Thank you very much. Again, please try and separate yourself. Don't sit near one another so that this COVID thing will not be with us. The next group we have is Java. It's Comrade Java. I have 1 or 2 issues to go and take care there with the BASA, Director of Finance and BASA. He is going to pay me all my allowances go. So I'll go and collect. Alan.
Thank you very much.
So which group are we? Okay.
That's subscription, standard, and nutrition.
Okay, subscription.
Mr. Chairman, permit me to stand on the existing protocol. This is a report of Decade Group on thematic issue 5 on subscription, standard, and nutrition. The chairman of this group is Professor Omar Adamu. The lead discussant are Dr. Kunle Filani. The panelists we have Dr. Umar Kwame, Dr. Ademola W. Aziz, Comrade Remy Makinde, Comrade Liu Eweni, and NASU representative. The facilitators we have in our midst are Dr. Hassan N. Mohammed, Comrade Agabi Intamu, Mrs. Ada Inosa, and my humble self, the rapporteur, Comrade Emma Japa. We want to leave out all introductory aspect of this report. We'll go quickly to discussions to observation. After a brilliant presentation by the lead discussant, Dr. Kunle Filani, an exciting and scintillating discussion followed. Participant after participant deeply appreciated COEASU for this bold initiative, which is hoped will take College of Education system to a higher level of efficiency and effectiveness. The following submissions resulted from the report's discussion. JAMB's policy on admission is inimical to the progress of pre-NCE program of colleges of education. Parents, including COE staffers, should encourage their children to pursue NCE program. Review of minimum standard has become imperative. The COE students are currently overloaded, which gives no room for meaningful performance. Government should go back to the basics to root out examination malpractices, which are directly result in the low quality of graduates being turned out in our various COEs. Recommendations from the exercise as follows. 1. It is recommended that bursary award should be given to outstanding students by the government to improve enrollment in the COE. Special allowances to the lecturers should be considered by the government to serve as incentive and to also stem brain drain to other sectors and subsectors of education. In relation to the above, the nomenclature of college professor instead of chief lecturer should be considered, since chief lecturer has no universal applicability. The Committee of Provosts and COEASU should pursue with vigor the total overhaul of the national policy on education. This should be the starting point in the review of minimum standard for colleges of education. The National Commission for Colleges of Education (CCE) should interface with JAMB with a view to repositioning the pre-NCE program to making it more attractive to prospective students. The critical stakeholders in teacher education should demand for a better deal by declaring a state of emergency in the College of Education subsector. As a morale booster, the NCE graduates should also be made to participate in the National Youth Service Scheme as it were before their exclusion in 1984. The idea of NCE students spending 3 years in school and going ahead to spend 3 years more in the university to earn a degree is worrisome and discouraging. Rather, such students should be made to spend only an extra year in what is called top-up. Major solution to poor subscription in the college education system is the realization of dual mode. COEASU should collaborate with NCCE to fast-track the big passage of the bill before the National Assembly, which covered the dual mode being canvassed. There should be harmonization of remuneration of personnel in all colleges of education, federal, state, and private, if optimal performance must come from them. Lastly, various colleges of education should embark on community orientation in the admission process of the students. Mr. Chairman, very distinguished ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank you for this.
take note of overlap and move recommendations across the various groups.
Mr. Chairman, sir.
Hold on, please. Yeah, go.
Just to inform us that Professor Monday Joshua, that had earlier been recognized, is now here with us and is on the high table. Let's welcome him with a round of applause, please. We also wish to recognize the presence of the Provost of Nwafọ Orizu College of Education, Supe, Professor Ifeyinwa Osegbo. Provost, please come over to the high table. You are welcome, sir. Nwafọ Orizu, Provost, come over to the high table. Nothing stops us from putting our hands together for you, please. God bless you.
Sorry, just if I may ask the last presenter, Japa. I said if I may ask for clarification, your first point, did you say JAM policy is inimical? It's inimical to the pre-LC. Thank you. So who is the next group? Presenter, please.
Funding the colleges of education.
Mike. Mike.
Mr. Chairman, members of the high table, all protocols duly observed. I'm here to present the position points of funding issues in colleges of education and National Commission for Colleges of Education. Use the mic. We held the meeting in the Chukwuemeka Zipe Hall here in the NCC. The lead speaker is Professor Kabiru Ishaku from Bayero University, and the discussant is Comrade Sam Akindele. We had problem one of the discussants was not there. The session chairman is Dr. Idris Kontua, Federal College of Education, Katsina. We had two facilitators, Dr. Alado Haruna Kauna from Jigawa State College of Education, Gumel, Dr. Hosari from Akoka, and my humble self, Dr. Shehu Jabaka Muhammad, as the rapporteur. The session was attended by 37 participants, 2 of which are females, 35 are males. The objective of the session are as follows: discuss the direct involvement of colleges of education with the National Assembly in matters of budget and other funding matters related to government and administration. 2. Examine how colleges of education could tackle the executive prerogative on funds allocated, autonomy and related matters. 3. Appraise the role of tertiary education trust fund and its policy of intervention in tertiary institutions. Examine its impact, adequacy, and relevance. Identify other possible areas of intervention to be canvassed with appropriate authorities. 5. Appraise the IGR acquisition and utilization in colleges of education. 6. Critically assess the envelope funding system of successive federal administration and haphazard funding patterns of state governments, suggest ways of improvement, effective deployment and utilization of funds. 7. Evaluate existing mechanisms for budget implementation and monitoring in colleges of education, and possibly propose other efficient models with a higher reputation for probity to enhance the budget monitoring process. 8. How could the colleges of education explore alternative source of funding for the COE's subsector, especially through the following private-public partnership, endowment fund options, foreign aid and technical assistance, and the window provided by the international donor funding bodies such as UNESCO, UNICEF, UNDP, World Bank, etc. After careful and extensive deliberations of the sub-team, funding of issues in colleges of education and the National Commission for Colleges of Education of the summit, the following are the positions of the participants. 1. National Commission for Colleges of Education as a regulatory agency of the colleges of education in Nigeria should be made to discharge its statutory financial responsibility in all ramifications. 2. The act that established COEs should be sacrosanct. 3. The funding and budgetary allocation should be in accordance with the act that established COEs. Furthermore, the National Teacher Education Program 2009 states that teacher education policies are only usable if financing mechanisms exist to ensure their implementation. There is therefore the need for increased funding so that adequate and relevant personnel, infrastructural, institutional resources, building facilities and equipment should be provided for teacher education programs. The National Teacher Education Program 2009 and National Teacher Education Guide should be both studied and fully implemented. Furthermore, the policy provides the method of funding through the establishment of teacher education program development plans to be handled by the Federal Ministry of Education. Financing the teacher development plan should be available from 3 sources. A. National annual budgetary allocation from federal, state, and state governments. B. The 15% of the federal account currently allocated to UBEC fund to support in-service teacher training shall be used to finance ISDE portions of the teacher education development program in colleges of education, including continuous professional development of teachers. C. Teacher fund account shall be established by Education Trust Fund in order to finance professional teacher PSDE. 4. State colleges of education funding should be tied not only to accreditation, but it should also be tied to subscription. 5. National Assembly should remain as supervisory body as contained in the Nigerian Constitution without prejudice to functions of NCCE. IGR should be sourced within the mandate of colleges of education, and every service fee charged should be channeled to the service being rendered. 6. Every stakeholder should be involved in funding teacher education. Therefore, UBEC and other related agencies should be involved in funding teacher education. Colleges should be doing research that can solve community problems through which they can attract national and international funding. Therefore, COE's policies must be well articulated to allow collaboration with non-governmental organizations such as UNICEF, UNESCO, UNDP, World Bank, etc., etc. Third point, in addition to building structure, should be made to look into establishing chairs in colleges of education for many disciplines to create further opportunities for transfer of knowledge and expertise. Colleges of education should establish budget monitoring committee involving all stakeholders, unions inclusive. It was observed that most countries in the world subsidize teacher education. Therefore, a UK model of teacher preparatory and retention need to be sourced, studied, and domesticated in colleges of education. Mr. Chairman, that was the submission. Thank you so much.
I think this group also veered into subscription and research. So recommendations for subscription and research should be moved to the appropriate sections. The next is
just to recognize the presence of the Provost of FCET Gombe, sir. Dr. Ali, Provost, you are orders on the item. Come over to the item, sir. God bless you. Let's welcome him with a round of applause. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
So the next group. Do we have the next group?
The next group, please. Attention, please. Announcement as we wait for the next group. The various groups, dysfunction groups of yesterday, make sure you get the attendance sheets across to the secretariat. And those represent the rapporteurs for all the groups. As you present your report, make a copy available to the secretariat for the communique proper. God bless you. Okay. He's here, sir. Thank you, sir. Research and development.
The chairman. Okay, sir. The chairman of this event, the legal members, the National Officers Council, especially Mr. President, my distinguished colleagues, I would like to first apologize for coming late. I thought I would get this report right here, but when I came early this morning, there was no light. So I had to resolve to go to the cafe. I am actually sorry. The theme for this group is research and development. The chairman, Professor Rachid, while the leader of the group is Professor Junaid Mohammed. To begin with, research and development in colleges of education. In his opening remarks, the chairman lamented that there are huge sums of monies lying fallow at TED fund meant for R&D in colleges of education. A scenario, he said, was a clear manifestation of the low level of research in our colleges of education. He observed that there are high quality academics in colleges of education, but who have refused to show up in the area of research because of inferiority complex feelings. The leader of the session, Professor Junaid Mohammed, then started with a conceptual definition of research, which I don't intend to bother out with because we are all familiar with this. He then went ahead to say that there's need to grow up research and development in our CACs. He then proceeded that for us to be able to achieve that, we must be able to do the following. One, that we should conduct research that will lead us to where we want to go from where we are. And that our research must be able to produce something that will attract funding. You don't conduct just any kind of research if you have to attract funding from tech fund and other research-sponsored institutions. Also, research in education should align with the funders' interests. Of course, we all know that if we have to attract funds or funding from research agencies, our research must align with the interests of the funders. Professor Junaid said, research is a catalytic, a pro-capacity building exercise. He emphasized that teachers in COEs must begin to conduct research for institutional and community growth as against the traditional personal growth and self-centered research which we are used to just for our career progression, e.g. research for BA degrees, MA, PhD, and the rest just to gain promotions for ourselves. He insisted that COEs must strive towards action research that propels the development of our institutions and the nation at large. Now, he also identified two major research areas. One is basic research and action research. Professor Junaid said COEs are supposed to show interest in the area of action research which produces pragmatic results that will propel the development of not just our institution but the larger community. Former COEASU President Mohammed Awal, in his contribution, said, researchers in COEs must add value to the institutions. And to do this, we need to understand the standard requirements for conducting qualitative research that will attract funding. The session then went ahead to identify challenges of research and development in our colleges of education. One, which is a fundamental one, is the lack of capacity, especially technical skills, to conduct quality research for development. E.g., we don't even know the key questions to ask about what we want to do, how to do it, and why we have to do the research. These are very, very fundamental questions we must always ask if we have to embark on any meaningful research exercise that will attract funding. Also, the former COEASU President, Dr. Emmanuel Asaga, insisted that colleges of education teachers must brazen up towards growing and building their capacity in what they want to do. Dr. Asaga identified manipulative intrigues of chief executives of colleges of education in the allocation of research funds to staff, who he argued is usually based on personal relationships instead of capability and merit, just the sake of the monies involved. We are all living witnesses to this argument. Professor Rashid, the chairman of the DIM, added that the problem of discrimination in research fund allocation should also be blamed on the perception of inferiority complex among teachers of COEs, arguing that this must be stopped. Professor Rashid, however, chided provosts of colleges of education who discriminates on research allocation to their staff, as that undermines the growth and development of research and development in our institutions. The professor challenged COEASU as a union to encourage its members to be scholarly, e.g. through the conduct of inaugural lectures, especially for chief lecturers who are supposed to mentor younger academics. Of course, this is an area he emphasized on. He gave an experience in his college where he attempted to introduce this kind of exercise for the sake of promoting development in research, and was resisted by our members of his college. Dr. Sunday Agolo, a discussant at the session, argued that research and development in COEs must be reconceptualized towards addressing critical issues of society that they should, instead of just doing educational research. This is our fundamental problem in colleges of education. We concentrate essentially on issues of education without exploring other key areas. He further contended that researchers must conduct research to cure and uncover subject matters that are knowledge-based and industrial driven. He canvassed that research and development in colleges of education should be commercialized, i.e., must be productive, as in meeting the needs of the community. However, the panelists said that not all research in COEs can be commercialized. He said, research and development in COEs deals with learners, and so the approach is different. He, however, conceded that those in the sciences can conduct commercialized research. As a way forward, it was agreed that research institutions and research administrations should be made to understand the peculiarities of research and development in colleges of education. Until this is understood, our research exercises will always be treated to the background as if they are of no relevance to the society. It was also resolved that there should be parity in the allocation of research funds between science and engineering courses on one hand, and education research on the other. Professor Rashid challenged all participants to fully arm themselves to conduct actual research for research and development in education in order to grow. The panelists and chairman committee of librarians in COEs advised participants to make good use of the library facilities to conduct research. The panelists decried the reliance of COEs on TED fund for research funding and urged colleges of education to explore other areas of funding their research. It was also observed that in the past, huge sums of money were allocated to COEs for library development, but they are not judiciously utilized. It was then suggested that henceforth, participants need to look inwards in trying to propel the growth of research and development in their COEs. Here we are talking about the need for us to monitor and guard jealously those funds that are allocated to our institutions for research and development, especially that of library development, because it's a key tool in the promotion of research and development. A serious challenge in research and development in COEs was also occasioned by the lopsided nature of the membership of TED fund research committees that is made up of essentially university professors and none from the colleges of education. This is a fact we are very conversant with. The president of COEASU, Comrade Nuhu Odirima, blamed part of the problems of research and development in our COEs on the unfriendly posture of some chief executives of top third fund to COEASU. We advise participants to adjust their orientation towards research by making it solve economy-based problems who lose out completely. Another challenge of research and development that was identified in COEs was blamed on poor mentorship culture, where every newly employed assistant lecturer feels too big to be mentored. It was agreed that the old culture of mentorship be revived in our colleges of education. It was also resolved that third fund officers be made to give feedback information to researchers whose proposals failed to pass, so they would strive towards improvement. Mechanisms for improvement on research and development were also identified by this group. They include organization of workshops, either by TEDFON, by COEASU as a union, and by management of our institutions. It also involves aligning with reputable research institutions. We can also align with highly experienced and competent researchers. Similarly, we can embark on the earlier advised conduct of mandatory inaugural lectures for chief lecturers. I think this is very important. Our new directions for research and development were also identified. They include the following: the need to develop a framework for research and development for teacher education. There's also the need to compile critical issues affecting research and development in our colleges. There's also the need to develop capacity to build research and development that is clearly lacking in our COEs. We also need to write quality research proposals, because this is very fundamental. If you have to attract funding, most of our research proposals are usually disqualified on the basis of not meeting the standard requirements. The traditional perception in colleges of education of just producing teachers at the detriment of research and development must be discouraged. The skilled nature of TEDFON Research Committee is a product of this false perception. There is need to develop a sector framework and strategy to improve research and development in COEs. The leadership of COEASU should strive to improve the capacity of its members to do quality research that are fundable. Colleges of education should provide an outline. COEASU should provide an outline, while the management of our institution should develop the framework. Dr. Asaga suggested that COEs needs to develop a clearly defined template using excellent academics across the COE sector that can be used to write a position paper that will be presented to TEDFON. Colleges of education must properly conceptualize their products and what the issues are in their institution, after which the union and management can visit TEDFON and present such concept. In conclusion, the presenter, Professor Junaid Mohammed, reminded participants that our research and development must be tailored towards national development and hence must be relevant to contemporary national developmental issues or concerns. Similarly, COE's R&D must identify and address the key issues of concern in the education sector. These should incorporate the why, the what, and the how of our research. COEs must strongly explain to TED Fund and other research institutions that they are dealing with human beings, that is learners, and hence requires a completely different approach to research and development. With this, COEs can enhance and promote research and development in their institutions in collaboration with funders of research and development globally. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
I have the pleasure to hand over the session to the chairman. Let's come back from his tete-a-tete with.
Thank you very much. I have the pleasure of taking over with no malice. Taking over with no malice. Thank you very much. Now, Mr. President, come let me ask you how much time we have before I open my mouth. Hello. Now, you see, when you are invited by people to chair something, especially drafted, you need to get some guideline and structure, and the platform, and so on and so forth. That's what I am. We have about 20 minutes for discussion on critical issues raised. If there are something that is raised and you don't agree with it, take note, put up your hand. Or if there's something that has not been raised at all, put up your hand and say if you think it's so relevant that we need to include it. Like I observed at the beginning, there are duplication across the submission. This will be the work of Rapporteur General who put together. Anybody who said that we need funding for research, and if 3 groups said it, then 1 is taken, and because the whole thing we are going to put them in sequence. Oh? All right. I will give the president of COEASU to set the ball rolling. Don't talk plenty. Yes. You are not campaigning for anything.
President, as you prepare to do that, permit me to recognize the presence of the acting provost of the Federal College of Education of Budo, Alhaji Chado, and invite him to come over to the high table. I know that my provost will hear you. Maybe when we get back to you and treat me anyhow.
Our teacher and the chair of education, other distinguished late speakers, and our other distinguished guests on the high table, distinguished colleagues. Please let me make some clarifications because this is much more of a public thing. I thought I had made this clarification yesterday. I thought it had been taken care of. It will be a misrepresentation to state that we don't have a representation on 10 committees. It's not true. So please correct that. The last speaker on the R&D, please, it's wrong. I think I told you that since the inception of the National Research Fund Screen and Monitoring Committee, we've been members of that committee. And at certain times, it was proportionate. Membership was proportionate on the basis of 2-1-1 or 50-25-25. But as currently constituted, we're grossly marginalized. I'm still there. And the ES is supposed to be there. This is it. And I told you that we stated our concern even to the ES of TED Fund. And then it's in process. And I also told you that we were able built to meet with TED Fund towards correcting that anomaly. That's one of the misrepresentations. I'm sorry? The second aspect of it is on the issue of limitation to national research. The perception rather that there is some bias in the assessment of our proposals. And I said, we even have 3 proposals now accepted and approved for funding. They are in stages. The first stage, since the beginning of this, I took the responsibility that enough sensitization has not been done. Since we recognize that, we have seen a lot of a kind of deluge of researches from our side. And as I speak now, we have 3. I remember that of Oyo Special. Those from Oyo Special can attest to it. And they were chief lecturers that were PIs, that's the principal investigators. We're able to also push to allow that principal lecturers also make submissions. Initially, it was limited to chief lecturers. I forgot to tell you that yesterday. So it's not a biased thing. I think what our teacher and lead discussion, Professor Ray, told us is actually the truth. We need fundable researches and usually innovative researches. Currently, the R&D, like I told you, is geared towards national developmental issues, problem-solving issues. Limiting ourselves to library research will be limiting ourselves to basic researches. What is required now, because of the push for a knowledge-based economy, are researches that will be solving problems of the community. And like I said, finally, sir, Mr. Chairman, sir, like I said, it's a task that we must bring ourselves towards, because like we will be stepping down the training. After our consultation, our engagement in the next 2 weeks will take form. We will be calling you out for train the trainers workshop on fundable research writing. There's a huge difference between fundable research writing and then basic researches. Thank you, sir, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much. Now, if you have something very, very critical to raise, put up your hand. You have. Okay. Put up your hand. I will take your name and number, and then I will get back to you. I will count first. Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I have 5. Right? You are number 5, number 4, number 3, number 2, number 1. All right? Yeah. You just came after I finished counting. All right. Professor Junaid.
Yeah. I just want to observe that there was a recommendation made by the curriculum committee to expand level-specific programs from the NCE minimum standards. I think that will amount to sawing off the branch of a tree on which you are sitting. So by the time you cut it off, where will you be? Down. You will be down. Already your products are not attractive to the employer. The 2 subject combination NCE graduates are not the kinds of teacher that SUDEP or SUDEPs are looking for. So if you take out the level-specific programs out of your curriculum, you are making your graduates out of what? Because they may not be employed by SUDEPs. They may not be needed. They need people who can teach at those various levels that have been recognized by the UBE law. So since the presence of the level-specific programs has not affected the future of teacher educators that are already in the colleges, who initially feared that by focusing on these level-specific programs, that they might lose their jobs. Nobody has lost his job as a result of the introduction of these level-specific programs. So removing them out of the curriculum will not help matters, at least for the products that you are producing. So what's the point of undergoing a program and carrying a qualification that is not needed by employers? So my advice is allow those programs to thrive within the curriculum. Gradually, you will be able to produce teachers that will be needed by the society. Not teachers that will just be carrying certificates, just to say I'm an NCE holder. And I believe these programs are examples of best practices in the colleges of education currently. If you remove them, you are doing away with your examples of best practices. So allow them to be, as we have allowed the old system also to be. And that's the point.
I totally agree with you. One of our major problems in Nigeria is that we don't take our experiment to conclusion. And the experiment of level specific should be given chance to mature. And then we see what happens. Then when you come to review the curriculum maybe in the next 5 years, then you look, are those people you are producing relevant or not? If they are not relevant, then you change. But you see, this group of people that you are training now, we are requested specifically by the Supreme and the government. So that's why I think nobody should even attempt to do this. Martin, they pass the microphone to the person there.
We have one, yes.
No, give him, I'm sending him. On his way, he will say something. Why? Well, I'll say something.
I will say something. The government council appointments should be made temporal and should not be dissolved to the government of direct policies. This wise, we have sustained a free flow of policies by the government councils and the citizens persons participants in the council. Thank you.
No, they must get their tenure complete, not that they cut them and they go. They must finish their tenure and then immediately there should not be any voice. That one is adopted. Yes. Yes. Governance. Why number one?
Chairman, members of the service table, fellow participants, I stand on the established protocol. Having listened to the various rapporteurs, I noticed that there is some sort of incongruence in their reporting styles. I don't know that the organizers of this summit would have a unified format when eventually the final report will be submitted. Sometimes you hear the rapporteur say, these are the recommendations. And in situ, in the recommendations, are still issues arising, but all this will be straightened out. I will observe one or two cases in the various groups and ask one or two questions. For instance, Group 3 on governance profiled a recommendation on uniform nomenclature for universities, polytechnics, and COEs. Neither is rather vague because the recommendation is not detailed as to what they mean by uniform nomenclature. Secondly, they would wish that the Nigeria Certificate in Education be retitled or represent the National Diploma in Education without suggesting a corollary, that is a renaming of the COE itself. I feel that a national diploma in education is rather like a watering down or a step below what we have presently. If it is basic teacher certificate, fine. If it is national teacher certificate, fine. But not to me a national diploma in education. Group 5 on subscription. Well, I noted here that their recommendations should be realigned to capture different stakeholders. See, the recommendations are sectoral. But when you hear recommendations targeted at what JAM should do, then you see what lecturers should do, what students should do, and all of that. You still come to where JAM is recommended to do a certain thing. So let us rearrange those so that those for JAM will come under JAM and so forth. On fund, the group that handled funding talked about or recommended that the act establishing COEs should be sacrosanct. To me, that sounds vague because they didn't even spell out what sacrosanct means, that it should be sacrosanct. So I wish that some of these recommendations be picked up, then the various stakeholders at whom they are targeted be clearly specified so that we do not indulge in repetition. Thank you. Who is next?
Mr. Chairman, sir, members of the High Table, respected colleagues, Assalamu alaikum. I want to refer to the governance report. That is a theme that deals with the challenges of deans, HODs, head of units. I think just what captured. With the stakeholder education, there are a lot of challenges facing deans. Our deans are just like ordinary staff. They are not even identified. They are not treated as such as deans in universities, where you see office of the dean, school of work and tech, office of the dean, that's at least vehicles. So I would like the final report to address the issue of deans, because even the appointment of HODs in the stakeholder education is politicized. You see a junior officer in the department will be appointed HOD, whereas his officers or seniors ahead of him because of party differentiation. So I think this thing should be captured in the final report. How HODs are appointed at stakeholder education should be looked into. The most senior must be considered, and also offices of the deans need to be respected as just sort as happening in universities. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you. Let me comment. I will comment. Politics and appointment of head chief of anything in Nigeria is politicized. So we should just have to walk through the politics by saying these are the minimum qualifications. For example, there is no way an assistant lecturer will be appointed as a you must be at least at the senior. Then it doesn't matter if you are chief. Let him be the head of a department, wasting his time here, collecting small money here while you are filing your papers. I advise somebody like that, and he went doing his papers. And then when they say, come on, you say, no, I'm moving into the university. And he moved into 2 years associate professor. In the third year, in the fourth year, papers for professorship. Yes, number 3. So,
Mr. Chairman, sir, and members of the high table, my own is on two areas. That is the governance and the R&D. On the governance area, there is a serious, what I think is a serious omission there that needs to be included. And that has to do with 5-year single tenure for all principal officers. We are clamoring.
Do we all agree? Yes. Do we all agree? Yes. So please, is it in the review already?
As an emphasis, even if it's in the review, let us put it in our community as an emphasis to let the public, for stakeholders, as stakeholders of this system, let it be included. Yes. The second one, the national president has said it, I'm only just going to amplify it, that in our R&D, there should be a continuous training and retraining for capacity building so that we can catch up with the trends of research. Thank you, sir.
Number 4 and 5 are all at that point.
The chairman and distinguished guests and fellow participants, I want to observe under the governance, and this has got to do with the issue of nomenclature that is being proposed by the group, which prefers that the nomenclature that is being presently being accorded our graduates should be changed to national diploma. Why? I think we all agree that the present nomenclature has been localized and has made it difficult for our products to find places of equivalence in the global terrain. We also feel that making it national diploma may not actually give it the desired status that we actually want. And for us to be able to reach the level at which we could make our graduates to be able to have a status that is equivalent to what they are being presently offered, we have to look at the best practices and what is obtainable globally. And therefore, I would rather suggest that we have higher national certificates for our NCE instead of national diploma. And that has a place in international terrain and fits into the status that is being offered. At present, higher national certificate is just a year below degree and is given the level 6 in the global ranking of certificates. And that to us, we appropriately place our graduates, because as now, at diploma level, which is national diploma that is being canvassed, even at the level of the salary and wages commission is at the level 6, while our graduate is at level 7. And therefore, if we go to national diploma, then it may cause a conflict with national diploma being offered by Polytechnic and the one we propose. Therefore, I propose higher national certificates. And also, on the issue that has been recommended, that we should have 1 year for our graduates to become graduates after they might have completed their NC. As good as this may be, we have to look at the implication. And I also want to recommend a model that we used to practice my knowledge some years back, that is at the educational education only, where our NC graduates, after graduation, we only spend 2 years to become degree holders. If we are talking about 1 year as recommended by the group, we may have conflicts even with university, because at present, what our curriculum offers is much of vastness than intensity. And therefore, if we have a student who is on a single major of 2 different subjects, by the time he will need to go and spend just a year in the university, which of these courses would he have majored in that will make him be able to cope with the intensity that is required? And moreover, such a candidate will still be required to undergo a teaching process at the university. Therefore, I will suggest, because most professions have 5 years to become professions, and that is what is being advocated with 3 years NE, 2 years degree, and we are having intensity of about 6 weeks teaching practice, 6 months teaching practice at the level of the second term. Then that makes us a core professional. Thank you.
For that contribution, but let me caution you. If you have higher national certificate, that's how you don't call it, higher national certificate, right? Where is the lower one? So be careful. And please, what I want the colleges of education to think, and what I have been saying long before, is that we should think our own path. Forget about regular university. Let us talk about specialized universities of education where our graduates of NCE will go and do whatever you think you will add to make them graduate. The name of the institution, College of Education, it doesn't matter. We still have Teachers College Columbia. Teachers College Columbia offers up to PhD and post-PhD studies. So name what you are given. So let us prove ourselves. And then I remember before I left, I sponsored NUC to go to I selected the colleges of education myself based on our accreditation report. I said, go out of this, all the zones. Give me 2 top colleges of education in the zone that you think have the facilities to give their BA degree or BA degree. And they went and they gave me 12. And I was pursuing the 12. So that they now start giving degree, even if it is an affiliation. While the older ones like Ondo, Kano, will now be free. That thing has been even written, has been recommended by so many. But we still have if you continue to compare yourself with those universities, wallahi, those ASU people will not allow it. They are so self-centered. I said, they only know themselves. I have negotiated with them long time ago. Anything you bring, anything out, so let us do our own. And look at a situation where, like, China College of University of Education is there. I don't know what happened with the Cross River, the one in Akapa. Is it there? Because of funding, they could not. But we need to have more and more of those that can give degree on their own, even if it's on an affiliation. But after some time, they are supposed to be win. You cannot be affiliated for life. Just like one day, they are sucking out the blood of Zaria and Kano, and they paying a lot of money to the university while they do nothing. I know, because I was coordinator of NCE before I came to. I know what we are doing. I know what we are doing, it wasn't good, but we collected the money anyway. So, next.
My position's observation would be really on a general perspective, but more substitutions. I'm worried that we still have most graduates of college education unemployed. Many of them are roaming the street looking for employment. And if we have that means there is need for us to refocus on the trainings of graduates of college of education, not only for teaching purpose as they teach, not for them to teach in the formal sector, but even for the formal sector. That means we need to think about professionalizing most of these students we are putting into college of education. Yes,
When we vocationalize the substitutions, if you go to colleges of education, you find students studying either building technology, either all those vocational courses, and less in number than to professional either social studies or other courses. And when they graduate, many of them are still unemployed. But if we try to refocus to see how institutions offering, even university, even maybe creations of more colleges of education. Nobody is even thinking of technical vocational school, colleges of education. They are creating more conventional colleges of education. I think they should try to refocus so that admissions of students should be refocused towards to be rooted more on the vocational and technical area, so that these students can finish and be employed and have great jobs. Because I'm a specialist in technical education. Most of my students, when they graduate, they great job, they have their own personal shops, not running with files looking for jobs. So I think we need to refocus so that we can direct our
I'm very, very technical people who want to do that, but remember, you are not polytechnics. You are producing teachers of technical and vocational subjects. If you are doing that, the focus is on teaching, not on going and doing weldering. I told you yesterday in my speech, somebody came and said, congratulations, all of the best of accountants I have in my bank. It was in Africa. They said, best accountants I have in my bank are courtesy and they're very honest, diligent, and this. I said, are you congratulating me? I'm producing teachers of accounts in the various secondary schools. Go to Polytechnic and get your diploma people. Right. So what you are saying is applicable to, you are just telling me that, for example, medical doctors, lawyers should be taught how to do something else, not the medicine, not law. Here we want teachers. Please focus. We are producing teachers, not anymore. I know there's a camp. I refuse to introduce intramural education in colleges of education. I say we are professionals. We are teachers. Why are you going to tell me how to do so? You are already cursing me that I'm not going to get a teaching job. But the minister was very powerful. She went aim by. It must be. I wasn't around. They finally put it. Yes, I know. Yes, I know. I left. I was happy that I left but because I know that one would have cost me my job. Because I'm passionate. I said we are add more something that they did in teaching than bringing how to do soap, how to do oil, how to do. What is a teacher doing oil, doing soap? Huh? If he has his job is 26 hours in a day. Just young up. Thank you very much for I totally agree because I am also frustrated when I used to go around and I say, what are you doing here? I say, I'm managing this. What are you? I have NC, but I can't get job. You have NC and can't get job, and you are a waiter in Sheraton. Yes. You are a guy in Sheraton. Wallahi, they were there. Yes, in Sheraton. So many in Sheraton. Why? I feel very bad. That's why I said every local government in Nigeria, they have unemployed NC. Let's look at it. Subeb, we need this kind and this kind. For now, follow what Subeb did so that force them to recruit them. So that they will, we are not, we are producing professionals. That's why we have to go to TRC and get that certificate. Thank you very much. We have passed already 20 minutes, but I don't know whether those people
continue with our job as teacher educators in the colleges. So this competition has come to affect, even the performance of lecturers, their vision of where they want to be. I think we need to get ourselves out of this confusion. We have a very important sector that we man, and we can make the best use of that. I remember when we started toying about the idea of refocusing colleges to their mandate, and we brought this idea of 5 specialist areas. And, you know, the vision then was, if you focus on this, then you can professionalize yourselves as teacher educators and even argue for a status of degree awarding. You will not be in competition with the universities at all, because you have charted your own course and your own future. But immediately that was in the air. I remember one afternoon sitting in the office, I got a call from, I think it was Enugu or somewhere in Eastern Egypt, by a journalist. So he said he was representing one newspaper, and I'm sure he was sponsored by COEASU. That he said, this move that you are making at NCC, you are going to end up, you know, lecturers in the colleges are going to end up losing their jobs. I said, why do you think so? He said, because most of them have studied different, you know, specialized in different areas, other than the ones you want to bring into focus. I said, no, but in the concept, there is nowhere where we say lecturers are going to be dismissed from the colleges because they read chemistry or biology or history. We didn't say so. But there is an opportunity for anybody who wants to veer into any of the new areas. You can be a psychologist and still say, okay, I want to also specialize in early childhood and care education. As a psychologist, you have a role to play there, and you can do so. And it is not compulsory on everybody in the college that they must key into these 5 areas. But if there are willing people who want to venture into it, they can do so. But also, they can also, since they are newcomers into the system, you can direct them into these new areas. And that is the role of mentorship. And then you can get new specialists in these areas. Like I said, these are the best examples of best practice currently in the colleges of education. And I think you should maintain them and sustain them as we go ahead with our old program. It is not going to go away. There is still need for teachers for senior secondary. So 2-subject combination is still relevant to the society and it can go on. But allow room for innovations. Don't be gatekeepers that are keeping our innovations from your arena. The world is about innovation. Development is about innovation. So, but most importantly, let us get out of the confusion that we are now in. Let us know what we want to be and continue to be that, instead of having, you know, doubts about whether I'm in the right place or in the wrong place. We are all in the right place. Thank you.
The chairman, respected members of the ITO, my colleagues. Actually, it's just to emphasize on some of the issues raised. We need to have a kind of identity as far as teacher education is concerned, and we need to know where we stand. If we want to really have university structure, then we need to have our universities of education. That has been said. We need to be more focused, and we need to emphasize on the direction we want to go. The truth is, just like we've rightly been told by the chairman, there has been a lot of effort to see that some of our colleges by now should have long ago been converted to universities of education. And that makes or creates a soft landing ground for all of us in the colleges. Because getting few of them on board means it's now easier for every college virtually to affiliate with any of these universities, seeing that we are coming from the same background, than perhaps go to some of these conventional universities where at times we end up abridging. Because I remember in my college at one time we went to Mina and got the affiliation. Yes, we even did that legally through the NEC for the first time, because it was not done by other colleges before us. But what happened was, being a college of technical education, some of the courses we were running, the vocational courses, could not be found there. So we now ended up coming to ABU, where we could. And still, we started trading for some of these other courses at other universities. That's to show you the inconsistency and incongruency in trying to run such program by some of our colleges. Really, this sitting should remain focused. We just need to re-emphasize advanced work has been done on the establishment of the colleges of education. As far back as I think late last year to early this year, some of us were still hearing the drum beating about the coming of some of these universities. So I think this platform, if really that's the line of thinking, we need to re-emphasize it here in our community to have the softer landing. Now, the other aspect is we are already trying to come up with nomenclature as far as ACADA is concerned. We want to run away from the chief lecturership, but have not come up with something so tangible. If it is the professorship really we are talking about, that will now come through the university structure as far as the Nigerian context is concerned. So all the more the reason why we need to have a structure that will be able to accommodate that. That's just about the truth. But talking about college professor, I've had it here, I'm not sure whether, well, let me just stop at that. There is just the need to think about it. Let me put it this way to you. And one word, suggesting about this higher national certificate, I'm happy that that has been clarified. I cannot see us recommending national diploma in education when we know fully well the mandate of the MBTE. And we know our mandate in the NCCE. And we know the mandate of the university. So really there will have been a clash. I think we need to streamline that. So on that note, also the issue of looking at the NCCE as it stands, that we really need to review so that it could now come up as a new conscience that will swallow everything education in Nigeria. We must be focused on these things for goodness sake. I don't know whether you get where I'm headed to. So that's just about the truth. That's just about the truth. Do we want the NCCE to be restructured? A new act to form that will allow us to control education holistically in this country, training in education, then this is the platform to think and come up with something tangible. Already there has been progress. What we probably needed to do if we are accepting the work, the earlier work, is to emphasize it here so that it comes up in our community. And some of these things that have long ago been at least established, we need to re-emphasize them to have a clear direction. I think that's what I actually want to observe. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman, members of the High Table, colleagues in the House. Let me just comment on a few things. This converting COEASU to universities of education, I support it all through. But I think that what will perhaps benefit us more, what I mean by us is those in the college system. I think it's what the chairman has said. That if we can pursue the policy of enabling able colleges, let me use the word able colleges, even as colleges of education, to award degrees. I think it will benefit us the more than selective conversion of some colleges into universities of education. And I don't know whether some of us have thought about the implications. As the chairman has said, the university system is a very conservative system. Very, very conservative. For example, if any college is converted to university of education, one of the implications is that the lecturers will go through regrading. And even if you have been 20 years as chief lecturer, the highest you can become is a senior lecturer in the university system. And you begin to grow from there. I don't know whether you have thought about that. So as much as I support converting COEs into universities of education, I think we should also pursue a situation where, as colleges, we can award certificates and grow from there. So that the lecturers inside that system, if you are awarding the degrees, then you can now think about and justify that the nomenclature about lecturers in the university can also apply in the college system. I tend to submit that. The point that the last speaker had raised, I think it's a policy. Yesterday in the group that I was a day discussing, I at the time observed that NCCE was not even there. I think only one person. So I don't know in this form that we are trying to tidy up with this communique recommendations. I don't know whether NCCE is represented and is making its own contribution. Because this summit itself is organized by COEASU in collaboration with NCCE. Because somehow I'm aware, especially when I was in the office of ES, we know that we were pushing this issue of amending or rebranding NCCE to be a commission that oversees and regulates teacher education in Nigeria. We are even proposing that changing the name from NCCE, National Commission for College Education, to National Commission for Teacher Education. So that every program of education, including those in the university, will now be consolidated under that commission. And so, we can think about teacher policy and then the needs of the nation and what we are doing to meet the needs of teacher education in Nigeria, and we are coordinating the training and everything in it. Later on, I knew that NCC itself, I don't know whether as a commission or some persons there, were pushing this in the National Assembly, but I don't have all the information. But I think if NCC were to be here, perhaps they would have told us the extent that has gone. But I knew that there was that push that the teacher education in this country should be coordinated and regulated under one commission, and that is NCCE being changed to MCTE. If COEASU believes in that, and COEASU believes in this summit, what it will bring out, what will come out of it, I think we should lend our voice and our push on that issue. Then, in one of the recommendations, one of us have observed that some of the recommendations are read. I heard was talking about JAM changing its policy towards colleges of education. I think when Professor Junaid was coordinating, he was even trying to clarify. He said JAM policy is inimical and that kind of thing. So I said to the corrector, I don't know whether JAM actually has policy as such towards the colleges. What I know is that at the beginning of each year, I mean after the UTME has been taken, JAM organizes what it calls consultative meeting, where all the chief executives of the tertiary education in the nation meet and decide on the cut-off point for the various colleges, for the various institutions. And it's at that point that then differential cut-off points are decided upon, which is to say, we are the ones looking for a lower cut-off point for the colleges. I don't think JAM imposes that on us. We know that if we want to stay with 200, for example, we say, okay, for you to enter any tertiary education in any tertiary institution in this country, UTME score of 200 should be the minimum. And we stand by that. The question is, as I asked in my group yesterday, how many students will we have in our colleges to teach? Will that not suggest the end of our jobs? Because we may not even see up to 100 people to admit. Okay. So, as we push out the communique, we need to be sure that we are not talking about an issue that does not exist. So I'm not sure that there is JAM policy that tends to undermine the integrity of the colleges of education. We are the ones that are even urging JAM. If we make up our minds now and say, no, we don't want such substandard entrance into colleges. Give us a candidate that scored a minimum of 200. JAM will do that. But I don't know how many candidates we will see. So it boils down to making teaching professions attractive, and then this issue of scholarships and bursaries to boost up the training of teachers in our colleges, in our universities. With that, we'll be able to attract better brains into the system, into the colleges to be trained. And then I also want to talk about this issue of private colleges. Sorry, I wasn't at the beginning to know what particular recommendation was made, the issue of private colleges. As a person, and the moment I was here, I kept on wondering, why do we have so many colleges, private colleges of education? When private people and entrepreneurs or communities or whatever think of establishing institutions, why don't they think of establishing polytechnics? Why don't they think of establishing universities? Why would their minds go first to colleges of education? So I think one of our recommendations should be that let the conditions for establishing private colleges be built up to make it relatively more difficult to establish, because we want to be sincere to ourselves. We know the harm that these private colleges are doing to the teaching profession. The products that are being churned out of these colleges. I think we should, our recommendation should go into that direction, and maybe also empowering. I think NCC is sufficiently empowered, but if it becomes necessary to step up the conditions required for establishing private colleges, so that before one goes through this, then you would have been very sure that there is sufficient infrastructure and manpower on the ground to be able to guarantee that the products that will be trained in those colleges, and also the existing ones, are such that we have plenty of quality materials. And then, finally, one more or two more. The issue of changing the name NCE, I don't know whether before we suggested that we have shown sufficient problems that the present name is posing. the name NCE, Nigeria Certificate in Education, has been there since the 70s. And if we're having problems, that is part of the conservative nature of the university that we are talking about. And any certificate coming in, they consider it as diploma. So they only wait 1 year for you. You must come into the system and spend that time. But we can push that recommendation. Finally, Mr. Chairman, the issue of what I just want to add, I don't know whether it came up when I wasn't around. The conditions for appointing the chief executives of the colleges. Yes, I've heard my chairman say, and it's really very true, that appointments of provosts, not just provosts, vice chancellors, in fact, anything you can think of in this country is well politicized. And we may not be able to do anything about that. But I think this summit, COEASU, should push for, let the due process be followed. Let the right character order. Let's look for the best brains. This issue that provost is to be appointed, and then you see agitation. Sometimes by COEASU also, that it must come from the college, it must come from that state, and within that state there is a particular local government area provost must come from. If not, peace will not reign in the place. I think COEASU should be wiser and should push for something against that clannish, even though we say the post is politicized, I mean the appointment is politicized, but I think that clannishness, we as a union of this summit should come against it. And then the qualifications for appointing provost, one of it, I mean, even, I don't know how to put it, the person should be a product of education. Okay, it has been said. But I will say here, shame to COEASU. Don't kill me. As I'm standing here, I'm aware of 2 colleges of education, state-owned, where the chief executives had never had any business in education. One is a lawyer. One is a nurse. So it's even more than because they think that I know. One is a lawyer. No, she did NC nothing. We used to do NC. And then the other one is an English graduate. Ren has never been into education class before. And I had expected. I kept on thinking, I said, oh, if this happened when I was years, from that college. You know how easy that would have been for me. But I had expected that immediately that happened, the COEASU of that institution would have done good. And in fact would have called upon the national COEASU to back us such that we will not go to class until you change it. We are not interfering with your position as governor. Appoint anybody who wants to appoint, but let it be somebody in education. Because you cannot send a lawyer to go and man a health institution. So why is it that you can now pick a lawyer to go to man college of education? They have never done education before, and then he's going to supervise the training of such. I think that is what COEASU should really pursue before now. But I think now it should also insist that no professional outside the discipline of education should ever be made to head, whether at the private or state. Of course, it can't happen at the federal level. And when once that happens,
thank you.
Then,
Thank you. President will speak, but let me tell you, whether we like it, whether it is our lifetime or not our lifetime, one day, there will not be NCE as a teaching qualification. One day, there will not be ND as a polytechnic. One day, we will all go to where we all belong. There will be only tertiary education commission. where you have units dealing with teachers, dealing with agric, units dealing with, we better prepare. Maybe during my time, probably impossible. 1997, that was my proposal. We started meeting between NUC, MDP, so that we streamline not only our accreditation tools, but also promotion in design. In NCC, we took the academic requirement for promotion of academic staff, while the other two didn't. So when we came with paying academic allowance, NCC was paying academic allowance to the academic department, while NUC and NDT were not. Because we already agreed that we are moving towards that in 25 years, everybody teaching will have to be a degree holder. In that case, what you are talking about, Teacher Education Commission, will be the one that is. So, we have already passed our minute. Please pass it to
Mr. Chairman, sir, members of the high table,
protocol, all protocol of that.
Good day. As I want to conclude earlier speakers, especially in naming our changing institutions to become university. Now, one issue to me, I don't think bother much about changing. What matters is we should be allowed for those that have the capacities and award degree. Let us be given opportunity to be awarded degree. If you look at our university and equal education, we have the capacity. We have more than enough number of degree holders in our respective institutions. But we are always going degree in application degree. In application people. And we know the university patrons, they don't even offer anything to us apart from just coming to education and so on and so forth. Yes. Please, we need to capture it for more emphasis. That we should be allowed to be awarded degree. And then also another fundamental issue. This professor name is what is causing brain drain in our college education. The moment someone acquires PhD, you move to university. But if we are allowed to award or to give professor in college education, that will be giving any criteria. Once you meet that criteria requirement, find out good. Also, there's also the issue of JAM. I happen to be a member of board of JAM, the Government Federal Education. I don't think there's any policy undermining co-education. I feel, as was said by the idea, it's true, it's our own fault for saying that the protocols for co-education should be 100. And if you don't do that, we end up not getting any student. So it's also another problem. Also, another point, appointment of provost. I think what the Bible is saying, while we're only insisting that the provost must come from the system of college education, not from the local government.
Nah, that's the one you know. That's the one you know.
Yes. That's the COEASU policy. There's no way you can walk off in a day and you'll be appointed as vice chancellor in any university. That will never happen. So I concur with that. I want us to capture it, just to for emphasis. Thank you, sir.
President, finish. Yes, sir. Finish off, huh?
Let's just run off. Chairman. Committee of Provost. Chairman.
You'll close the president and
Distinguished Chairman, other members of the High Table, I just don't want us to leave here confused. We want to become professors. We want to award degrees. But we don't want to change the nomenclature. If you want to award degree, then there's a fundamental problem. Because you cannot serve two masters. And this is one major problem. You cannot do the dual mode, the NCE subscribing to NCCE and the degree subscribing to NUC. And the greatest bottleneck really is NUC's refusal to allow the colleges to run degree programs under the NCCE. Whether we like it or not, this is the reality. When I was provost COEASU was upgraded to the University of Education. But let me tell you the funniest thing. Some staff members of the college were fighting the policy because of what they will become if the university takes off. So I think there's something that we need to do really for people to understand where we are, where we are going. Most of them felt they were going to be marginalized and they were kicking against it. And NUC said we must draw a line, a battle line, so that they know where the university building stops and where the NCE starts. And we have to do that, sir. We have to demarcate, to bring a wall between the University of Education and the College of Education. So, I want to say that truly, like my last year said, Professor Mandi, we just have to change the nomenclature of the NCC to National Commission for Teacher Education. Then we run the degree, and let me tell you why. It is only a University of Education that can run all the programs that are offered in the College of Education. There is not a single university faculty in Nigeria that runs more than 10 graduate programs in education. So majority of our students are lost. They have to start thinking of where to go. They are never given the opportunity to professionalize in their own areas of specialization. So I think rather than going back and forth, today we embrace this, tomorrow we leave that one and go that. Let us have one single position. And I think the former years that are here are in a better position to assist us, to tell us the best way to go. This is my contribution. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anyway, I don't want to. Let's wrap around and I get to the committee.
We're shooting the time limit to set. I want to apologize that I do understand that you are tolerating this session because of the discussions that I emanated. Well, sir, I would appeal that I have actually a clarification on two issues. But given the contributions of former ESs and then the provost here, I would need some extension to the issue of our engagement with JAM. The clarification I wanted to put forward actually was predicated on the inquiry made by one of the participants. You see, the philosophy for this summit actually was principally informed by the fact that when our teacher and former ES, Professor Kabiru Isiaku, was here, NCC was much more popular than NUC. Notwithstanding the fact that we had the likes of Professor Kim Kola as NUC Executive Secretary. It was in his time that a major policy of government was shut down. The policy to merge colleges of education, polytechnics with proximate universities. Then, I recall, it was a major thrust of the reforms in the education sector. And I do also recall that even at certain fora, Prof will stand his ground against the almighty Madame Due process. Madame Due process at the time. Honorable Obi is the person. These are records. You Google a lot of things about teacher education, you see reports funded by World Bank, funded by UNICEF, that it has cheered. Is that the case with NCC today? That is not. We're in the doldrums. That is the truth. We have engaged the Minister of Education. Before we engaged him substantially, the idea of the summit had been on because of the situation SDC found itself today. We're also hoping by this summit to influence policy. And when I say policy, it is policies. It's a generic term for any policy that will think that this stakeholder meeting who believes is affecting teacher education
with specific reference to college education. Any policy, JAM, even fiscal policies. We cannot be discussing the issue of funding without, in isolated terms, without recourse to the financial regulations. When you discuss financial regulations, that's talking about whatever management. I'm happy the some of the professors here now, stay with us. You cannot be discussing management issues the way you funds mobilization and utilization without recourse to financial regulation. If you discuss that, we believe there are some things that needed to be changed. You'll be affecting policy. So it's not only JAM. It's part of the philosophy of the motives for this meeting that whatever policy issues may be arising, we'll take them on. Not just that. On the legislative aspect, we don't believe that every stakeholder was not there when we're looking at the review of the law of the FCEs, of the law of even the NCCE. We don't subscribe to National Commission for Teacher Education. I made bold to tell you that. And why? You are looking for wahala. You want to regulate. I'm happy that our professors are here now. You are encroaching another man's territory. That has been the brain of the realization of our case for dual mode. At some point, Professor Okoji told us, it was very, I wouldn't say manipulative, was very diplomatic. Whenever we engage the ministers at the time, they will go back. And it's like we're starting afresh. It's just of recent. When I say recent, that's relative to this government. That an NUC executive secretary boldly told us, if you want your commission to be regulatory in our degree, I will never allow it. And that's Professor Rashid. It was at one of our meetings with the Honorable Minister of Education. He was the only one that has made bold to tell us that he will never allow that we run our degree programs while we were still having it. He said, no way. He said it. So what they said about the politics is very intricate. That is the truth. That is why we are where we are. But what has been the strategies that were defined towards taking this situation? That is why we have the laws. And I can accuse you the provost because most of you have ganged up now against that law because of the second term syndrome. Okay, fine. Let me not say more. Okay, let me not say more. I'm so sorry, my provost. Some of you, my provost is looking for second term. He's not even here. It's one of those against that law. This is where we are. This is where we are. His cronies in the college. The chairman is here. Let him dispute that. His cronies in the college are saying, this one would affect their proposal. They even say it's because of their proposal. I mean, nonsense. What nonsense is that? So, sir, what we have devised. Most of these arguments being advanced, we've gone beyond that. One, how? The law we have reviewed. The issue of, before I even go, the issue of NCCE regulating degree, please, is a complete aberration. The universities will not allow you to exercise the faculties of education to join your own for you to regulate. It's not, it will never be accepted. Those are one of the issues. In the review of the laws that we have now for that of the federal colleges, there are provisions there for degree. We've been having degree in affiliation for decades. The efforts made by ES here, Professor Nabil Richard, quite enormous. Yes. They got what do I call it now? People visited Scotland. There are colleges still awarding degrees outside our shops. For God's sake, they don't have a Senate. Those colleges they are not having a Senate. How are they awarding degrees? It's just in Nigeria we like a lot of I don't want to go into details of it because they are my teachers. We have to create a niche for ourselves. Polytechnics award degrees. Massachusetts Institute of Technology is not even called a polytechnic. It's not a university. They go and Google it. The Nobel laureates, the patents, in hundreds. How many patents are some of our universities? I'm not telling you, I'm just making it something as a reference. Massachusetts Institute of Technology, the Nobel laureates that emanated from that institution, that they call it an institute, that that they have thrown out, taking the best prices in hundreds. For God's sake, when we talk degree, we're not saying because you are colleges of education, university of education. The COEASU position on it is not for nomenclature change, no. That's why I'm happy with one of us that was here yesterday, Kule Filani. In the university UI, he's still doing some work for UI. At certain points, he was given an offered employment. He stood it down. He chose to remain in the system. It is not that I'm crazy about titles that no sooner they became, they earned their PhD, they jumped. Most of you here are products of education, and we're proud of all of you. Not just because you people are here, you've been our ears, no, but we know you people have contributed to knowledge. So this is where we are, sir. That's the philosophy. This is the issue of SKCE, and that's why the issue of them, and I'm happy that even Prof himself was here at the opening. We had robust discussion with him. In fact, he suspended a promotion interview. We were there till around 5 that day. Director Tertiary and others were there. Although Mr. Ojo, at that time, he told them that he was meeting with us on a critical issue. And what was it? That was the issue of attrition in subscription to our system through JAM. Even though some of us still have students in thousands, but most of them don't pass through JAM. When they mentioned, I knew where they were going, I was not there. But the provision, the recommendations they made, when they mentioned that, and Prof asked, what area, what do you mean specifically? He clarified that. He said on pre-NCE. Pre-NCE students are made to regularize. And the procedure for regularization, before they are on the mainstream, before they become admittable, is very cumbersome. It's very stringent. That is what they meant. And this takes me to the last thing. The submissions made by the various thematic groups is not it's not completely the way you are saying it. Let me put it this way. There's a technical aspect of every summit, every workshop tailored towards repositioning any system. This is just stage 1. The next step is technical committee that will handle the report itself, because we want to produce it in book form, a normal report, not paper report. No. The technical committee will be saddled with the responsibility of isolating issues on policy, issues on legislative matters, and other administrative issues that we may have to converse with the committees of provost, with NCCE management. And recall that even that governance, I've not heard anything about interrelationships. There are some areas that most of them have not actually addressed, which that technical committee will look into and come up with whatever will be acceptable within the system. So a technical committee is going to handle that. So we're not ending it here. This is stage 1. Stage 2 is the real report writing. Who does what and how and when. Then the next one will be, once that report is ready, presentation to the minister and where other stakeholders and our former ESS will also be pleaded with to attend. That will take us to the final stage of what? Pushing for implementation. So it's not the way you're saying it. I want to thank you, Mr. Chairman, for this briefing.
Thank you very much. I'm sure most of us that are here because we believe in the College of Education system. We want things that are better for the College of Education system. Like you said, we keep on pushing. Some of our comrades will fall by the side, either fighting or not fighting. They're by the side, but eventually we'll reach by the grace of God. So thank you very much for your patience. And for like I told some of especially the president, I said, I'm happy I've seen those people we met in Kano. Occasionally, it's just in the right. I just remember him when we are just struggling. And marking day, I see him in the web. That's good. And he's always in the Facebook. Yes. Preaching. Yes. By his pastor preaching peace. I see him. I say, I'm happy that. So it's good that you brought as many people as you can for their own experience, so that you carry everybody along, so that everybody will now know what is going on and they will be able to preach. But the most important thing is, whatever you do it for the benefit of the system. Like you said, Kabiru, you are sending NUC to go and check whether. I send them because I know that Alba Eboku had 40, I had the list, 47 PhD holders. Nobody, no faculty of education in Nigeria had 47 PhD holders as lecturers at that time. Nzube, the same thing. Ondo, I had my so I know what I was doing. When they went there, they wrote positive report that this can give degree on their own. I said, fine. I'm writing to the minister, these people should start giving the degree under NUC. I didn't care. The years of NUC, you are cutting your empire away. I said, is that my empire? It's good for Nigeria. So thank you very much. Thank you very much. Okay, Isube has put together. Oka and Isube put together. They had more than 40 PhD holders at that time. Thank you very much. So I hand over to UCPRO for the closing, whatever.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and other members of the high table for the wonderful job, the great job you have done to enhance the success of this summit. We deeply appreciate it. Let me very quickly recognize and welcome to this ceremony the provost of FCE Technical Fortis School, Malam Madu Mohammed. Provost, please, let's see your hand up. Let's welcome you with a round of applause, ladies and gentlemen. You are welcome, sir. We also have the privilege of this occasion being graced by the provost of Enugu State College of Education, Dr. Osondu Eze. Provost, wherever you are, God bless you. Please come over to the front row, sir. No backbench for any provost. You are welcome, sir. God bless you. May I inform us that we are done with presentation by rapporteurs and discussions on them. It is now time for the community committee, which is not ready with the report, to settle down and prepare the communique. I know that members of the high table may wish to take their leave. The rest of us will remain here, and when we are done with the communique, we will forward their copies to them. But before they leave, please, I am directed to invite the National Ex-Officio 1 of COEASU, that is the immediate past president, Comrade Dr. Emmanuel Asaga, to come and tell our elder statesmen and all of us thank you by way of vote of thanks. Put your hands together for him as he steps forward. Great person. The chairman of the occasion, a very distinguished professor, a man that was at this commission when some of us just came into the system newly. I'm a man that saw the system where if there's an NCC is coming to your college, you see everybody shaking. And I want to say we were happy at that time. Professor Kabiru Shaku. They are distinguished former ESs, Professor Junai, beautiful ES, was a beautiful ES, a man
with some form of gentle outlook, but with a very tough inner spirit. A man that we were first enemies, and after that we became the best of father and son. It was a wonderful time. He taught me part of the humility that I've learned. I used to be a rascal, but I became calm. It's a man that received an insult from a staff of FC Zaria in his boardroom here, and he responded in a manner that did not look like the ES of FCC. He didn't act like his position was anything important. From that day, I became broken. So I think you've taught us how to. That's why people are surprised that I've become gentle. They don't know why. Distinguished ES, Professor Monday Joshua. I think he has also left. It appears as if he has left because of his spine. I want to also appreciate him. The former provost of Portisco, also a beautiful man, always smiling, but the way he discharged at this other session, at the plenary, I discovered that you have caught some fire I never knew was there at all. I want to sincerely appreciate you for coming. I've not started the appreciation yet. I'm just mentioning your names. I've not started. You actually gave us a direction. I was happy because even if we are happy or not with what you were saying, you have stated the facts as they are. And one man I used to know who speaks like that and damns consequences. In fact, he did it at the United Nations building with Professor Kabiru Shako. At the point, the way he talks, even to NUC, ES at the time, and NUC senior staff, the way he talks to them, some of us were happy to be associated with this sector. And I think we need to be careful with that as we are appointing ESs going forward. Our provost is Provost of Usube. I'm very careful. I have to go to you before coming this way because we are careful handling women. So it's a beautiful thing that you're also here. Our provost, Taisolari College of Education from Ojebu. Even if it's not for anything, the fact that you are seated here, it's your role at Taisolari is something to be appreciated, and we wish that you do even more. You have no other role. You have no other option. You just have to do what you can to leave your footprints on the sands of time. Our beautiful provost from Gobe. You know you are beautiful. That's why I'm saying you quite a handsome man and gentle. My own president. Okay, our provost from Portisco and chairman committee of registrars, my provost from Obudu, and all other provosts here present. Chairman, the provost of chairman committee of federal provost is here also. Our own wonderful brother and professor who believes much more in the college of education system and has also seen it both at the federal and state, Professor Farouk. We are also very delighted to have you here too. And all other distinguished provosts, ladies and gentlemen, you are comrades, so we understand, including those who hold offices here. We are all comrades, so we appreciate you. I want to sincerely start by saying our parents our old parents, particularly my grandfather, I think by now he should be over 200 and something years. My granddad, he told me, when you want to appreciate somebody, just tell that person thank you once. If you start saying thank you, thank you, thank you, it becomes suspicious. He said, tell him thank you once and be sincere with what you say. Words are not enough to express our appreciation. My President, it's as if it's an omission. I was about mentioning you and then you, but I know you can ask me to drop the mic. Great person, our own President, Comrade Nuhu Obrima, whose posture is deceptively gentle, but whose actions are laden with the type of misery that we can only associate with the Sambisa forest. And I almost forgot. I'm sorry about this because my sight is not too good. So each time I'm looking at our former director of personnel, also a very wonderful gentleman, I'm sure properly groomed by Kabiru Ishaku and others as they come in. I want to say that it was a wonderful time because you, Elijah Salih Okoro, he was one man that actually stabilized the NCCA, the relationship between unions and management at the time. In fact, I think a lot of us have invested a lot from your experiences and your time here. I want to appreciate you for being there, sir. So I want to say that we are very much, the words are not enough. We can't express how grateful we are. The reason is that at your ages, at the time you have left, from the time you have left this system up till now, you were all invited to this place. We were very speculative whether you were going to come or not. Some of us were saying that, look, even if two of them come, we can connect the others through Zoom. If they cannot, we can ask them to give us their inputs and all that. But from nowhere, we were surprised. God did it wonderfully, and all of you did not only come, but you have actually made our people here to see the brand of people that have superintended over the affairs of this system. This is a wonderful thing. I'm telling you, is the intellectual brand. So you can make it locomotive. Wow. Thank you very much for coming to the church session. So sincerely, I was profoundly bewildered by your show of knowledge. Somebody would think that as you are aging, you should be depreciating and all that. But I want to tell you that our little visits even to your rooms in the evening, the kind of interactions that we had high hopes. And when you people came, you never disappointed. Right from the chairman, in fact, the chairman at his age, he declared his age to us and told us, I think it was quite instructive. He was telling us that and it was a challenge, that if we can be talking like this and we can be feeling this passionate, you have to do more, young men. And I want to tell you that we are sincerely very proud of you people. Dr. Kabiru Ishaku did not change his style from where I saw him to be. He was assertive. You will know at the point when he started. But I know that he has, over time, he is mixing it with some form of diplomacy at this time. He didn't want to, but he was quite blunt if you listen to him carefully. I want to thank you for the energy, the time that you have actually put here. And I want to tell you, please, sir, don't be tired. Because when it is well with this place, even if you are not here, it gives you a lot of joy. The worst that you will ever see is to come back here and discover that this place is not functioning at its best. It shows that you could also be found guilty. So we are prayerful and we are trusting that, like the president said, this is phase one. And it is not going to be a continuous thing. We cannot do this as a one-off thing and it goes. We are all going to be committed to it at all costs. So we appreciate you, sir, for coming. We also sincerely appreciate Professor Junai. Your time yesterday was also very wonderful. Your romance with us, even after living as years, whether it is a festive time and all that, you found time to send prayers, you found time to interact with us, you found time to also ask us, how is it? How is it with you people? How are you carrying on? We are sincerely very appreciative. Yeah, we are very appreciative, sincerely. And yesterday, you brought your cerebral show to bear before us at the R&D. We are sincerely very appreciative. Despite the model you adopted, which is your usual style of keeping calm and provoking people, you provoke thoughts. It's a new style. It's a style of its own. And then you make people generate thoughts, and then you start finding the faults and finding fault lines and see how you can align us and all that. We've learned so much from you. We appreciate you for coming. Professor Shetima, I cannot say thank you to you so much because for you are like us. We are only hoping that God will help you to rise to the level where you will impact more significantly on this sector going forward. We thank you for your paper, we thank you for your inputs, we thank you for your time, we thank you for your sacrifices. I want to let you know that you will not leave us. Though you are in Gashua now, from time to time, please keep in touch with us and monitor your children and know exactly what they are doing. I appreciate you sincerely. We also want to sincerely appreciate the Professor Monday Joshua. He was also the lead presenter there. I think he must have stepped out. We want to appreciate him for his sacrifices and the time. Those of us who know what Calabar into road is, it's a very terrible terrain, and he was able to sacrifice his time and come. Our provost, I want to thank those of you that are still here. I want to thank those of you that were here yesterday. And I want to pray that we will thank you more by the time you do not stop your commitment to this cause at this meeting. It is time for real business. And I want to tell you that if you people are not ready to support us, if you people are not ready to sustain this pressure and ensure that we get things right in the system, we will be reporting you to our fathers. And we pray that our fathers will see the need to have time, call a meeting even with the current years, and sit with the committee of provosts and think of how best we can leverage on your experiences, leverage on your commitments towards the revitalization of the Nigerian college education system. I pray that that happens. It's a pleasure, Chairman of this occasion. I want to beg of you. I know you have what it takes to drive that. We pray that you also do that. We have a ready president who is also prepared. I want to sincerely thank the president of COEASU too. Let me first of all thank our director of personnel for your time, sacrifice, and faithfulness. Your sincere friendship with your former executive secretary, your sincerity and commitment, both in service and out of service, is something we cover so much. I want to appreciate you. Some people, when you are in office, they are with you. As soon as you leave office, they find their way at dodge. I want to tell you that this one, there's a feature, the name is wonderful. I appreciate you for that, and may God reward you upon that. My president for packaging this and actually managing us, putting us together, and thinking it has come a long way. God has allowed it at this time. I want to appreciate you for all you put together. We want to thank you for managing us and carrying us along. We want to believe that God, in His infinite mercy, will put a seal of success on this particular vision and ensure that the mission is achieved to His own glory. That's my appreciation. I want to say to our colleagues, our former presidents, members of NOC, distinguished delegates to this particular special summit, I want to say that this is just the beginning of the movement. All other unions in the sector, all other stakeholders, everybody, be you registrar, bursars, academics, non-academics, everybody. I want to appreciate all of you for representing your various institutions here. I want to appreciate you for coming, believing that God will take you back, guiding you peacefully, in good protection, back to your families, and prosper you in all your endeavors. May God bless. Thank you very much. God bless you.
This juncture, ladies and gentlemen, I think we should be okay. We invite Comrade Awal to please close us with a word of prayer.
ربنا آتنا من لدنك رحمة وهيئ لنا من أمرنا رشدا ربنا آتنا من لدنك رحمة وهيئ لنا من أمرنا رشدا ربنا آتنا من لدنك رحمة وهيئ لنا من أمرنا رشدا بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين آمين.
Thank you. We'll be on our feet as the members of the high table take their leave. And with that, the summit has come to a close. Participants are free to return home. The communique committee will fine-tune all the resolutions, and it will be forwarded to us through our platforms, so that we don't keep us here till evening. Thank you, and God bless you for coming. We wish everybody journey mercies. May their Luther spirit in you be sustained. As I request that before we go, let's remain where we are. This is a COEASU function, so that we chant our solidarity song, please. Great COEASU. Great COEASU. May we be on our feet as we chant our solidarity song, please. Solidarity song, 1, 2, 3. Solid, solid.